Hey, what's up, guys? It's N Squared Sports coming back with another video. Today, we're going to do another NBA video. There's not really much in the NBA going on, so we wanted to make some NBA video in some form or fashion. So, we're just going to talk about the possibility of a play in tournament for, I think, the 7 through 15 seeds. So, kind of the bottom seeds of the playoffs and then teams below that. So, Nick, what do you think about a possible play in tournament?
I like it more so because I like tournaments. I think it's fun. I think it creates good cult. I think it creates good conversation. It's good. The truth is we barely in what is it, the seventh seed through the
15.
15th seed. The thing is that like it doesn't really matter, I think, because when you look at the Eastern Conference standings, let me I have them up really quick. Okay. You have the seventh seed, 9 games below the sixth seed. The Nets, and you have the Magic, Wizards, Hornets, Bulls, Knicks, Pistons, Hawks, and Cavs. None of those teams are doing anything in the playoffs. They're going to be swept. They're not gonna compete at all, really. That's my argument for the Eastern Conference. So, like, why not make it a little bit, spark up some conversation for the Eastern Conference? The Eastern Conference, I don't see a problem. And like they aren't catching the 76ers or the Pacers, in my opinion. The Nets or Magic aren't. I feel like that's a common agreeing point. And then when you look at, I mean, some teams, but even then, the Nets and the Magic are 6 games ahead of the Wizards. And that's possible, but I mean, most of these teams suck, to be completely honest. Now, if I go over to the Western Conference, yeah, it's a little closer. The seventh seed are the Mavs, and they would beat most of the other teams within the Western Conference. Um, but you have the eighth seed as the Grizzlies, and then the Trailblazers right behind them, and the Pelicans right behind them, tied with the Kings, and then the Spurs. And that's a really close battle for that eighth seed. And I could make a strong argument that really that the Pelicans, the Trailblazers, and the Grizzlies deserve it more. And I guess the other teams could get in, but again, it would spark conversation. We get to see, um, we just get to see these teams fight for something instead of just like I don't know, complete tanking. Um, these teams aren't making an impact. I mean, you can say the Mavs would. Um, I think this you could make a negative argument against this on the Western Conference a lot more than you can make it for the Eastern Conference because the Mavs are in there and the Mavs are. I mean, they're not contenders, but they have the potential to go to that Western Conference championship if everything if the stars aligned. Um, and I don't think they're going to get upset by the Warriors really. Um, so yeah, Nick, I just want to hear. I know you said you
So,
really disagreed, but I never heard any of your points.
So you basically made my point, but you made some weird logic about I don't like you made my point, but you said something totally different. So my point is yes, those teams do suck. Like you're completely right about that. Those bottom teams, they suck. They're not going anywhere. That's exactly why would you let them play in a tournament to where they possibly for one game could have a very like good game and beat like a 7 seed, and then the 7 seed works so hard to stay in the playoff race, and by that one game they're eliminated and they're not even in the playoffs, and then you get a team that's a 15 seed that gets to be in the playoffs and then gets swept. So that 7 seed there is now saying, wait, we just lost one game, but we could have actually made this a series with this other team. This other team won 15 games the whole season. Why do they get a chance to try to beat a seed? Like, do you see what I mean? Like that, to me, that's why would you even let that happen? Because it is possible, like in a 7 game series, yeah, you're right. The 15th seed probably would get flipped. But in one game, anything can happen.
So what if it was a 3 game?
Even a 3 game, I still feel like you could be all of a sudden, and by the way, because of all the COVID stuff right now, they're not playing games. So like, if you had a playing game, like right after everything gets back to normal, the 7 seed could be really rusty and not good, and the 15 seed could all of a sudden just
Are
work.
you talking about the fact that the are they saying that there's not going to be like a couple of games being played before?
I think they said it would be a single elimination like tournament where they would each play like one game and then they would
So,
keep moving on to where you get the final two teams.
so I understand your point, but at the same time, I feel like that argument does not apply to the Eastern Conference at all. And I feel like you agree. Is the Nets through the Cavaliers do not belong in the playoffs. The Nets they've won 46% of their games. That's pathetic.
Wait, so
Um,
you're saying the
I'm,
Nets are a playoff team, right?
the Nets
Technically,
are
right now.
they're a seven
Yeah,
seed right now, and
yeah,
they're going to get swept by the Raptors. And
yeah.
so is the 15 seed. It doesn't really matter. The Eastern Conference, whoever is in the playoffs is going to get swept. Maybe the Nets win one game. Maybe the Magic win one game against the Bucks. I highly doubt it though. But no matter what, these teams are all getting swept. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I
There's
think
in the Eastern Conference there is no competition below the seventh seed or
okay.
below.
Well, 2 points. One, you still can't award a 15 seed in the East because the 15 seed in the East is much worse than the 15 seed in the West. Well, not really this year because the Warriors are so bad, but usually one conference is a little worse than the other. So you can't have still. It's not fair to have a 15 seed that's won, let's say, 15 games compared to a 7 seed that's won 30. They've won double the games, even if they're not good. They've still won double the games. Why are you going to let a team that has played bad all year still have a chance to get into the playoffs? Because the 7 seed has won double the games. I think it's not fair still to have a team that's so bad to have a chance to get in the playoffs because they might get swept, but I think the 7 seed is there for a reason. They still do have a chance. So that's what I think.
My argument, I guess, and I think what we disagree about is I think you just don't think it's right for a low seed to get in to the playoffs,
Yeah.
which is fair. But I guess my argument is, and I think this is where we differ, is it doesn't matter because it's not going to make a difference. It's not
But
going to make a difference either way.
but
And whether
you
if they do
can't
it, they just screw themselves over. And
you
so,
can't make that point though because the West is different. The West, there's multiple teams below the A seed. There's probably three other teams that are ninth, 10th, and 11th seed that could make a run for the playoffs. So you can't
right,
do something to one conference that you can do the other. You can't do that. Like you
right.
keep
But the Western
then
Conference, there is one, two, there's four teams. You could argue there's the Spurs are right on the edge there with the 5 games behind. But there is 7 teams that could possibly make the playoffs in the Western Conference. And that is the simplest way of just completely like, here you go. And I honestly could make a strong argument that the 8th seed through the 7th seed, all or 8th seed through the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th seed all belong in the playoffs.
Mhm.
I mean, even a 13th seed with the Suns.
yeah. So I'm not saying to just have a 7th and 8th seed, um, just for them to get in. I think it would be okay to have the teams that have a realistic shot for maybe 4 or 5 teams to have a tournament. I agree with that point, but I just don't think you should let the teams that are 13, 14 games out of the A seed have a chance because when the season stopped, there was only about 3 weeks of play left. So that's not possible. Like some of the teams were basically statistically eliminated from the playoffs then. So I think the teams that actually had a chance should be able to play in a tournament. But I just don't think it's fair for the teams that have no chance at all for them to all of a sudden have life again and say, hey, and especially the point about I heard somebody else make this point about like the Warriors, how they have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were all hurt. Now they're getting to rest. And what if they had a chance to come back for this tournament? That's a new team. So they're 15-50, but now all of a sudden they're the last seed, but they have a chance because they have their stars back to have a chance to get in. I don't think that's fair at all to a team that's won double the games. So
I mean, I'd agree with that, and I don't believe the Warriors should get in because they are officially eliminated. They're the only
Yeah.
team officially eliminated in the
Okay.
NBA.
Well, yeah. That I mean, so get the teams that are not officially eliminated and put them in,
So you
because
could have
there's
the
only a couple. Like I don't think there's more than four teams in each conference that are outside the playoffs that have a chance. Like if you look at the East, like I don't have it pulled up. I'll pull it up real fast.
Yeah, I'm looking at the East right now. I mean, it's the Nets and the Magic both have 30 wins, and then it's a once between the Wizards and the Cavs, who are the last. There's a 5 game difference.
Yeah. So if we're looking at, like, I think for Chicago, Charlotte, and Washington in the East, I think they would all have a very much an outside shot to get in. But once you get to like the New York Knicks are 32 and a half games back of the first seed, and they're 10 games out of the seventh seed. So in 3 weeks, you only play, about 12 games. So statistically, they're not eliminated, but there's pretty much no chance they could get in. So I would take, yeah, you can take Brooklyn, Orlando, Washington, Charlotte, Chicago. Those 5 teams. Have those 5 teams play a tournament. And then in the West, you have Dallas, Memphis, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio. So you might have those 6 teams play. But I wouldn't say, like, it's not fair to have Phoenix, Minnesota, Golden State included in that. And you can't have like New York, Detroit, Atlanta, Cleveland. Like they're just not. They're eliminated. Like they're just done. They have no shot. So I mean,
Yeah, and I think I really do think is that we're seeing this from two different perspectives necessarily, or like yeah, we're seeing this from two different perspectives, and I guess the perspective that I see it is that it doesn't matter in the end. And from a media NBA standpoint, this is great promotion, and this is a great
yeah,
way to bring people back. Is let the really the worst uh, play against each other, and then we just get to see that because the only team that actually has a shot is the Mavs. That's the only team. And what you could technically do is have the Warriors, and because the Warriors are technically eliminated, and the Mavs technically are they're the best team out of all those. What is it? 15 teams, I guess. There's seven,
maybe.
16 total
Yeah.
teams. Have the Mavs and the Warriors not play, so the Mavs are locked in. But then you have the 8 seed through the Timberwolves, and then you have all of the Eastern Conference face each other. Those guys aren't going anywhere. I think everyone agrees on that.
That's
Uh,
exactly my point. But okay.
no, what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter that none of these teams are going
But
anywhere. It
but I
doesn't matter. They're
think.
not going to do anything in the playoffs.
But again, I don't care because you can't have them still have a chance to get in. Because
But they still do have a chance to get in, though.
if you look at Memphis, who is the eighth seed right now, and then you look at a team like San Antonio, they're still 4 games back.
And that's
So
highly possible. And
but okay, but do you really think Memphis or San Antonio has a better shot to go deeper in the playoffs? You got to be kidding me if you say San Antonio because they're just not. They haven't played well all year.
I
Like
mean,
and Memphis is like I agree if you say okay,
the
Memphis,
last like
Portland,
10
New Orleans,
games,
like
I mean, even the last 10 games, they've lost more games than the Spurs. Like they've had the second worst record in the last 10 games that they've played out of those teams. They could easily collapse. And before they're like that 1 game win, they were on like a 4 game losing streak. It was whenever they stopped the league, like 2 weeks prior to that, they were above 500 team. They were like I think they were like 32-29 at one point. But now they're 32 and 33. They just lost
okay,
practically,
well
five.
then how about because I think San Antonio would be included in that little tournament to get in. I still think they'd be included. But then you look, what about a team like Minnesota, who statistically is 12, 13, 12 and a half games back? Like, do you realistically think that Minnesota could do more than Memphis in the playoffs? No, they couldn't. Don't even start. No, they
with the
couldn't.
with a healthy Cat and I think a
They
healthy D'Lo,
couldn't.
I feel like they could do more.
They couldn't, and it's not fair. Even if they could, it's not fair because they played bad all year. You can't have a team that's played bad all year have a chance to make the playoffs, and then you have a team like Memphis with Ja, who, if Ja gets eliminated, like if he lost in the tournament, that would be bad for the NBA. And on your point for marketing and promotion, having Ja out of the playoffs and instead having Cat in the playoffs, that would be terrible for the NBA. They don't want that to happen. And also, but it's not even fair because Minnesota's been at the bottom the whole year, and Memphis has been good the whole year. I just don't think it's fair.
When's the last time you've seen a competitive 8 seed face a 1 seed, though? That's the thing.
I mean, usually they're not as they usually win 1 or 2 games, but Minnesota would. I think Memphis to LA. I think they could win 1 or 2. There's no way that Minnesota could even win a game. They couldn't come close. And I think their losses would be really bad too. I think Minnesota would lose by 20 every game to the Lakers in the playoffs. And I think Memphis would actually make it close. But even that doesn't even matter because the point is it's not fair for teams that have been bad all year to have a chance to get in the playoffs. Like it's not how the NBA's ever worked.
But this is like obscure times, though. That's the thing.
But it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter because everybody's dealing with the same circumstances. So it doesn't matter that they're weird times because everybody's dealing with this thing at the same
But
time.
then I'd argue, are we just going to kick off the teams that had a chance?
No, I'm saying they still have a play-in tournament, but there's some teams that don't. And my point is
But
for the
where do you
teams
draw
that
that
don't have
line,
a
though?
chance. I say you go back to when the season ended and you look at everybody's remaining schedule and you looked at the strength of schedule and how many games they had left. And then there's analytics you could do on it to see do you have a chance or what's your percentage chance to actually make the playoffs. And you go with teams like I don't know what the analytics would be to get in the playoffs, but you go with teams like the top. I wouldn't put a number on it like the top 5 or 6 teams, but I would put there's a cap because there's eventually a cap where it drops off like substantially, especially in the East, but in the West even from I think a good point would be from San Antonio to Phoenix. San Antonio is about 2.5 games ahead of Phoenix. But then San Antonio, Sacramento, New Orleans, and Portland are all really close. So I think that would be a good point to draw the line and just say, okay, Phoenix, Minnesota, Golden State, they're out. Because they just don't have, even if they have like a 2 or 3% chance, they still don't have it. Like they realistically don't have a chance. And then in the East, you draw the line probably after Chicago, because then New York is 12.5 games back of the A seed. So they really don't have a chance. And in their remaining schedule, they only probably played 12 or 13 more games. So they really, even if they have a chance, they would have to win every single game. I just don't think they would have done it. So I think that's where you would have to draw the line.
I guess I can get on board with that. It seems like you're not opposed to a play-in tournament. It's just
No,
that you don't like.
I'm just doing it for the teams that realistically do not have a chance. I don't think it's fair.
I can get on board that.
So have I convinced you or not?
If that was the solution, yes.
Yeah, but I don't know what the solution will end up being. So that's the whole.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for coming to our video, y'all.
And I'm sorry my light went out halfway through. I'm in the
I
dark.
didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank y'all for watching. NBA should be coming back within 68 weeks. That was
68 weeks? Oh,
6 to 8.
628. They said 60. And I'm like, what? Yeah, 6 to 8
a
weeks.
year. 6 to 8 weeks. So that was announced a couple of days ago, I think, or maybe a week ago. So 5 to 7 weeks. Woohoo! And possibly in a couple of stadiums or focused areas, which could be interesting. You sort of have your own NBA town, I guess.
Yeah.
Could make things a little bit more interesting, but we should be getting it soon. should be returning soon. NBA players and teams seem pretty set on trying to get the NBA moving. And that would make it around mid-July, mid-June. So
Right,
there's
July,
that.
yeah.
So woo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for watching.